Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the StudentLoanJustice.org live stream. Hey, hope everybody's doing well out there. Happy Monday, April 26th. I hope everything is going well out there in the world for you all. Things are quite snowy here still in northern Wisconsin. I'm going to try and keep it quite short tonight, folks. Look over there, or maybe down there, depending on whether you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube. Maybe even up there, I don't know. You will see a press release that we just issued, like, over the weekend, and we just rolled it out today. It's a very simple press release announcing the fact that we have now garnered 1 million signatures on our petition. So that's kind of a big deal. It's kind of newsworthy, right? So send it to your local news, send it to national news, and I would even say kind of try hard, like say things to get them to report on it. Because if you just kind of dump it in an email and say, blah, throw it out, they're going to be like, But if maybe you wrap some friendly, persuasive language around that petition, maybe they'll take a harder look at it. Maybe say that, hey, look, I am from Hampton Roads, Virginia, and our state owes more than the entire state budget in student loan debt. This is outrageous, unacceptable. This petition has 1 million signatures, and damn it, you need to report on this because this is our state. You know, like something like that probably would be a little stronger than just fire and forget emails. So come on, guys, make it happen. These are your loans, your problem. So, man, there's a lot going on right now, folks. We still have stories brewing in Georgia, in actually maybe even Florida now too. Georgia, Florida, Colorado, Ohio. If you happen to live in Ohio, send me your story. It still may not be too late for both Ohio and Georgia, although it may be too late at this point. Send us an email with your student loan story if you want to be interviewed. So that's justice@studentloanjustice.org. Speaking of Hampton Roads, Virginia, I didn't just pull that out of a hat. I'm actually giving a talk tomorrow evening at online for the Hampton Roads Green Party. Now we are a nonpartisan group. We couldn't endorse either major party last election, nor the election before that, actually. Interestingly, we have been able to endorse both Jill Stein and Howie Hawkins of the Green Party, as crazy as that may sound. But it's true. So anyways, they asked us to talk. I'm going to be very happy to give a talk to them tomorrow. I will put the link. There's a Facebook link to the invitation, which I will put in the comments below this video on Facebook. And if I can remember, I'll put it up on YouTube also. But it's going to be tomorrow evening at, I want to say, 6 p.m. Eastern time. But you can look for yourself. You can sign up for it at Facebook, and we can do it that way. So I'm looking forward to that. What else? Oh, I also have to ask for donations at this moment in time. We are transferring our website to a new host because the old host just sucks. GoDaddy rhymes with GoDaddy. If you can make a donation, we've pretty much got the website covered at this point, but you know, it's sucking out all of our other stuff. So if you can make a donation right now, it'd be super duper helpful. StudentLoanJustice.org/support. Hey, there's Tina Rocket. Speaking of the Green Party at Hampton Roads, it's Tina reinforms me that it's actually going to be from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., and I assume that's going to be Eastern time. Thank you, Tina. So yeah, be there, guys. Whether you like the Green Party or hate it, it doesn't matter. What's important to us is who is the right on the policy end of things. And I'm sorry to tell you, or I'm not sorry actually, but we very proudly endorsed Howie Hawkins and Jill Stein of the Green Party. And we would have loved to have endorsed Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, but they didn't make it. We could not endorse Joe Biden. We would have loved to endorse Joe Biden. We would have loved to endorse Donald Trump, but they just weren't there on the policy. That's all we care about. So if you've been thinking about, I'm just going to leave it there. Check out the talk. Join in, participate if you want. It'll be fun. And typically, these presentations go for maybe 45 minutes or an hour, I'm guessing. But if you have questions, bring them up. And by the way, if you have questions here tonight, questions or comments, throw them out. I know a lot is going on. So I'm going to try and give you the 1-minute lowdown on everything that's going on in the world of student loans and student loan justice right now. Okay, so let's go back to the founding of the country with the founding fathers. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so right now, student loan cancellation by executive order is on the table. The Biden people, they sounded like they were all ready to pull the trigger before the election. Now, after the election, not so much. The good news is that the rhetoric has changed a huge amount over the past year since we started this petition. We went from being laughed out of the room by Joe Biden, like eyeball to eyeball, a little over a year ago in Iowa, on the very moderate question of bankruptcy, to just before the election, Biden was saying, I will eliminate your student loan debt if you earn less than $125,000 a year and went to a public college or an HBCU for undergrad, which is a pretty strong thing to say. And Joe Biden has also endorsed Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy agenda, which, thanks to us, she brought into the presidential campaign at some urging. So that's very, very good. The open question now is what the Department of Education and the Justice Department will say to the question of whether or not the president actually does have the power to cancel the loans or not. But folks, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what the answer is. I think it'll probably be no, because that is the answer that Biden wants to get. But believe you me, I have looked at the law very carefully. I'm not the dumbest guy in the world. I know a thing or two about certainly student loan legislation, the Higher Education Act. And I can tell you that the language in the Higher Education Act of 1965 gives the president and the secretary very broad, unambiguous authority to waive, compromise, release student loans. And it's not just me that's saying that, by the way. Some far more credentialed legal scholars than I have said precisely the same thing. And if you look at the memo that the Department of Education threw out in the last months of the Trump administration, trying to argue the other side of this, it's just incredibly weak. It's a laughably weak argument. I'm not even going to say any more than that. So we got this, guys. No matter what the Justice Department and the Department of Education says, we kind of already know what they want to say. Hopefully we'll be surprised. But at the end of the day, guys, we control this lending system. And this lending system is catastrophically failed no matter how you slice it or dice it. Even before the pandemic, 80% of all borrowers were never going to be able to repay their loans. Never, ever. The default rate for 2004 students is 40%. And they were only borrowing a third of what's being borrowed today. What else can I tell you? I mean, the default rate for subprime home mortgages, right? Most people would agree that was basically a failed lending system. Almost brought down the economy. The default rate for subprime home mortgages was 18%, 1-8. So my best guess, and I'm usually pretty close if not conservative in my guesses, my best guess is that of everybody walking around with student loans today, something like 75, maybe 80, maybe even 85% were going to default on their loans. They just were. There's just, 80 before the pandemic, 80% were either unable to pay or they were paying and paying and paying and their balance was going up. Nobody is paying on their student loans right now. Very few people are. Very few people will resume paying on their student loans when this pandemic is over. I think people have taken a very fresh look at the whole question of legitimacy of this debt, and they quickly came to the conclusion, particularly in view of the fact that we just threw out $7 trillion in stimulus, much of it in the form of loans that do not need to be repaid, like $1 trillion, and all that added to the national debt So here we have federal student loans, a massively failed lending system. They could be canceled tomorrow 100% by the president and the secretary without adding one penny to the national debt and without needing one dime from the Treasury. In other words, no congressional appropriation is required. It's time for this lending system to go, guys. It's time for it to go. And the people who would benefit the most aren't these elitist, liberal, whatever, how they try and paint student loan borrowers. No, that's nonsense. 40% of all student loan borrowers never graduated, number one, so they're probably in, blue-ish collar jobs. There are more people over the age of 50 than under the age of 25 with student loan debt, and they owe 3 times more than the younger cohort. 55% of people who have some college education, so i.e. they've been to college at least, they identify as being either Republicans, that's 43%, or independents, that's like 12%. So the majority of all student loan borrowers are are either Republican or independent, 55%. You can also say the same thing. You can also say the majority are either Democratic or independent. That's how close it is. But suffice it to say, this is not a blue issue at all. Not by a long shot. And remember also, the people who are doing the best, people who went to college or doctors and lawyers, they're doing fantastic, earning tons of money, easily able to repay their student loans. I have news for you. They're not even in the federal student loan program anymore. Because they're smart, they have great credit, and they ran out and they refinanced their student loans at much lower interest rates in the private market. So they're not even going to be affected. And I might also add, there are 18 states in the country, over a third of all U.S. states, owe more in student loan debt, most of it federal, than their entire state budgets. Now, the states that are the worst are like Georgia, Florida, North South Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, Indiana, Missouri, Virginia, Maryland, South Dakota. I might throw in Michigan and Illinois as well. But my point is, they are red states. So red states are being absolutely skewered by student loans. Georgia, which I consider to be a red state, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's no longer, maybe I cannot do that. But historically, Georgia has been a pretty red state. I think most would agree. Their governor has been Republican, but for one example, back in like the 80s or something. The entire Georgia state budget is $48 billion. That's a lot of money. The citizens of Georgia owe $82 billion in student loan debt. That's like almost double. Interest alone on that $82 billion is probably $4.5 billion a year or something, if not maybe even more. I know it's closer to $5 billion a year. Now that's money that is created out of thin air and it is sucked out of the Georgia state economy every year. In Texas, it's far worse. I mean, the percentages are better, but and I'm not going to rattle them off because I can't remember, but something like $141 billion, I think, maybe 119. The people of Texas owe way over $100 billion in student loan debt. Way over. Like, might even be 140. Might be 120. But guys, I'm telling you, state governors all over the country should be on our side. Republican governors. Brian Kemp in Georgia, Greg Abbott in Texas, many others. Governor Bill Lee of, what is that, South Carolina, whatever, Missouri. I can't remember all the governors' names, but you know them better than I do because you live in those states, and so yeah. So that's kind of what's going on, guys. We're waiting to see what Biden does. Oh, also, importantly, very important, we have not yet seen any bankruptcy legislation come out. In fact, what we did see was, and we really want to say nice things about Elizabeth Warren, but dudes, I have to tell you, Elizabeth Warren and the new senator from Georgia, Raphael Warnock, they wrote a letter to the Secretary of Education telling him to take all federally owned student loans out of default. Now, on its face, that sounds like a good thing, right? Like nobody wants to be in default on their loans. But guys, I'm telling you, this is a swamp machination, a Machiavellian action. It is a trick. It is our opposition would love to keep this lending system going, and a good way for them to do that, because they know that nobody's going to resume paying on their loans when this pandemic thing is done. They know that this lending system is dead, but one way that they can use to keep people on the hook is to take them out of default. You're like, hey, congratulations, you're out of default. Oh, don't worry that your balance was like $250,000. You're out of default, yay! And if you want to keep yourself out of default, you will start paying us. That is what the swamp would love to do. They would love to do that, keep bankruptcy protections away from the loans, and they would love to do some nonsensical up to $10,000 or up to $50,000 loan cancellation. That's what they want. And I don't know what caused Elizabeth Warren and freshman Senator Raphael Warnock to write this letter to the secretary, but they did, and they did it for the swamp. I'm telling you, we've been doing this for 16 years now, folks, and I can smell a rat when I see it. I'm not saying Elizabeth Warren's a rat. Maybe she got manipulated. I can't speak for Elizabeth Warren, but what I can tell you is that letter that she sent with Warnock it stinks to high heaven. So stay tuned on that. Hopefully it was just a trial balloon and it will come to nothing. I kind of don't think it will, though. I kind of think there's some juice behind this, because I kind of think the bad guys want to take loans out of default. They want to get everybody sucked into another repayment program so they can scrape their wealth from them for the next 25 years. That is what I think. And folks, we have to be stronger than that. This lending system is a national catastrophe, but it's also a national threat. You know, John Adams said there are two ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword, the other is by debt. And this student loan monstrosity that we are living under is living proof of those wise words. This lending system cannot continue. President Trump should have canceled all these loans before he lost the election. He would have won the election. He's an idiot. Joe Biden should have canceled all federally owned student loans on day one as president. There's no better, cheaper, easier way to stimulate the economy. But be careful, guys. I know a lot of people love Elizabeth Warren. We have a long history with Elizabeth Warren. We would have loudly and proudly endorsed her had she won the primaries for president. She made some very strong, trustworthy pledges as a presidential candidate. But as I said, guys, we're a nonpartisan group. All we care about is the truth. And if bad things come, we will name them and shame them regardless of where they came from. This time, it happened to come from Elizabeth Warren. So if that concerns you, don't get mad at me. Be very concerned with Elizabeth Warren and go to her page, warren.senate.gov/ I think contact or something, and send her a message and say, no. That's not nearly enough. We need bankruptcy legislation right now at a minimum. We need bankruptcy rights returned to all student loans, both federal and private. That really is a necessary precondition for any sort of meaningful loan cancellation. We got to have it. Got to have it. So, all right, guys. Well, we're pushing 20 minutes here now. I am going to leave it there at that. Keep this Monday live stream brief, but I will just reiterate myself. Please make a donation if you can. Please send that press release to the press. Get some media to report on it. And again, sign up for our talk, and I will post that in the comments below. Sign up for our talk tomorrow to the Hampton Roads Green Party, particularly if you live in Virginia. I think you'll get a lot out of it. Okay, folks, I will not be here tomorrow. Ed will be here tomorrow, but I will be back on Wednesday. Fight the fight, guys. This is your battle. These are your loans. And only when you get off your ass are we going to get anywhere. And that's always been true, always will be true. So don't forget that. So good luck, Godspeed, and God bless everybody.